we're going to do one of our shows from their floor room in a hot tub.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's going to be
that sounds amazing.
Hard-hitting journalism, Mikey. Luckily, you've avoided that episode. I don't know who we're going to bring in on for a guest that time, but someone who's a good sport.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean,
no one's going to say yes.
Lambo, you would be up for that. But
you're either on the bus or you're off the bus.
Welcome aboard, episode 36 of Ridin the Bus. The official Iowa Wild podcast after a long hiatus is on the way. Joey Goldstein in Massachusetts, Ben Gislason in Des Moines, but not in the office. And if you think this is my office behind me on YouTube, we'd have pretty sweet offices here with my lovely accent wall behind us here. It's very, very cozy start to episode 36 for us, and an outdoor episode for you, Joey. Welcome back. We've got a lot to cover today, but first and foremost, life in Beantown. You've been home for a bit. I'm sure it's been just wonderful for you.
Yeah, it's always nice to come home for a little bit. I do this every summer. I come home around the 4th of July. We get a big bash at our house every year right before the 4th, and extended a little bit longer this year. My brother's getting married at the end of the summer, so we had his bachelor party this weekend in Vermont, which was a good time. I got back yesterday, very tired. But yeah, last day here before I head back. But I got a nice little view here. I'll spin you around. Looking at the pool.
And for our listeners there, beautiful pool setup. Looks like you have a nice little cabana style umbrella above you. Don't want to make sure we don't leave our listeners out from seeing what the YouTube viewers are seeing there, but appreciate the 360-degree view there.
Yeah, it's a nice little spot, but yeah, it's been good. How was your 4th of July? I know you were at Dev Camp, but what'd you do before that?
Yeah, solid. A little time up at my family's lake place. Both sides, one in northern Iowa, the other just across the border into Wisconsin. So I've spent enough time on I-35 over the last few weeks here between weddings and bachelor parties, like you were mentioning. So last weekend was kind of the last trip back and forth, and by that last probably I'd say Ames and in, I was really ready to be done driving north and south here in the month of July. So it'll be nice to be grounded and rooted and here in Des Moines. And now, as we all talk about, once you get past the 4th of July, the off season isn't over by any stretch of the imagination, but there's a change. There's a shift in just the feel or the vibe, and certainly a change in your day-to-day from a front office staff member's perspective, because you're starting to feel like the upcoming season is really coming, where in May and in June, it feels a long way away.
Yeah, I've always said things work in waves over the summer. Where we're at right now, we'll talk about it in a bit, but the schedule's out now. So that's the big kind of first milestone marker, right? Schedule comes out, and basically we spend the next month or so getting ready to put tickets on sale, and the promo schedule will come out. And that all happens same times like the state fair. So that's the next big marker in our off season is the Iowa State Fair. Once the state fair passes, then it really slows down. That's like the slowest time right before the season starts. There's a lot that's still happening behind the scenes. We're still working on promos and things like that. But in terms of like player movement, big, like those bench stone markers, like there's nothing really like that. And then right after Labor Day, that's basically when you're right back in full throttle, because NHL camp starts and that goes by in the blink of an eye, and then our camp starts, and then it's opening night, and then you're off and running for real. So there's a lot of things that come up and happen along the way, but it kind of we keep an eye out for those markers. At least I do. That's how I go through the off season.
Lots to get to today, including a fabulous interview with really, I think, one of the sleeper personalities in the Iowa Wild locker room, partially because we missed him for half of the year last year, and Mikey Milne, who is a very dry and witty personality. And also, as we learned and as we've known, because you and I have gotten to spend a little time with Mikey, but we've not really put him in front of a camera for this long, he loves to talk. And boy, did he love to talk to us in this interview. So we're going to get to that. We're going to try to not go too long on the front end, because we do have so much to cover, because we've taken the last few weeks off with, as Joey and I just alluded to, weddings and bachelor parties and trips to Massachusetts, development camp, 4th of July, etc. But it's good to be back, and it's also good to have a better idea of the roster. Minnesota signing 8 two-way players that could very well, most of those guys will likely be a very big part of the Iowa Wild contingent this season. Also some AHL signings in there. The schedule is out. Let's touch on that a little bit early, Joey, before we get to Mikey. And let's start with the schedule. I think that is one of the really big things everybody is looking forward to in the offseason. I know I look forward to it. This week for me will be a big week of planning. How do we get to Charlotte? How do we get to Ontario? All these new places that this team will be going this year, some familiar places in there as well in San Diego. We've got the typical run of the options that we have in the Central. We've got Rockford 12 times, Grand Rapids, Milwaukee, etc. But some of the teams that popped onto the schedule that you're excited about, Joey.
I mean, I always look outside of our division, right? Because those are the teams we see the most. We see them all the time. We know they're coming. So I get excited about, well, who's not from our division that's coming in. So you obviously always look to the Pacific. I always get excited when I see San Jose on the schedule. It's always a fun one to win. For me, having been there before, I don't get to travel, but I know San Diego is a great place for you guys to go to. But I think the cool ones for me are Charlotte, which is another great place to travel to. But Springfield's on the schedule, and that's the first time, first time ever that I was played Springfield. So that's a cool little piece. I know talking to some folks from their team at league meetings a couple weeks ago that they're excited to come on out. So that's pretty cool. And just, I look at those opponents and I kind of look at the schedule just in general and how loaded up different months are. We got a nice big homestand in January. But other than that, it's fairly spaced out, which is kind of nice. I think we did pretty well. A lot of Friday Sundays instead of like Friday Saturdays or Saturday Sundays. But it's good. We got a lot of Wednesday games, so a lot of winning Wednesday games this year, which will be nice. A lot of opportunities for fans to cash in on some free tickets. Just a lot of dates that work out. We're playing on Valentine's Day, which is exciting. Some other cool ones. So yeah, now it's like I got a meeting later this afternoon to really start putting the puzzle that is the promo schedule together. So it's going to be exciting to kind of piece everything together. A couple 3-3s, I think, which not great for the team, but those are you're always due to get at least one of those on the schedule. So.
Yeah, there's a few gauntlet stretches for sure. That was the one thing I noticed was you've got the couple that jump out to me. You've got back-to-back weekends, home and homes. Rockford 1, Chicago 1. That's in December. Those are hard games. Those are hard broadcasts, let alone games for the players to play in. And then there's another stretch. I think it's New Year's Eve in Rockford, into Chicago, into Milwaukee. But that's a 3-4 because the day off would be New Year's Day. And then there's the 3-3, I think, is later in the year. And it's tough because you actually go east. And I think we had it this past year, if I remember correctly, a similar 3-3 where we ended in GR. Or maybe we went backwards. They start to blend together. But ending in GR, and the GR game is at 4 o'clock. So you're going to lose an hour coming from, I think it's Chicago or Milwaukee, one of the two around Lake Michigan. So those will be weekends that when we get there, and as we talk about them, whether it's on broadcasts or podcasts, those will be important weekends because those are the weekends that if you can scrape out 3 points of 6 on a 3-3 weekend, those are the weekends that can really help propel you into a playoff spot come the end of the year. But I'm with you, San Diego, obviously excited to see them back on the schedule. Excited to see Ontario. I've heard they have a great building and a great fan base. And that trip for us is going to be, I think it's about 8 days in California. And I think 3 or 4 of those days are just practice or off days. So I'll be bringing my shades and my suntan lotion and probably my hiking boots too, because I know there's some great hiking around the San Diego area.
We get the return of Joe Hicketts with Ontario as well.
Yes, we do.
Return back to Wells Fargo Arena, which will be exciting for fans. I know he's a big fan favorite, and obviously we loved having him here, so it'll be nice to see a familiar face come through too.
I told Joe he needs to play just 4 American League games this year, and then I hope to see him playing strictly for the LA Kings. The 2 games that we're out there, and then the 2 games that they're in Des Moines. Let's pick 4, Joe, and then you can play the rest of your season up in Tinseltown with the Kings. So it will be great. A great point with Joe coming back. You're right. He was someone that made a lot of friends, not only in the dressing room, but outside with the fan base in Des Moines. So the Ontario Reign, San Diego Gulls. You going to come to San Jose? You going to work on getting your way on that trip somehow? Throw yourself in my suitcase, throw you under the plane.
Well, I appreciate you offering that. I'm unfortunately probably too big to fit in your suitcase, and your suitcase would definitely be overweight. So I don't want
Too
to have to
heavy.
make you pay for that. That trip's pretty early on, so I don't know, unlikely, but I can definitely give you some recommendations on places to go when you're there. Good place to grab some food, grab a nice bite to eat. So yeah, no, I'll be watching that one probably from my couch in Des Moines on AHL TV.
Other people that will be a part of these trips, specifically the 8 players signed right after the 4th, or right as July started. It was an early and busy day for Bill Guerin, for Matt Hendricks, the pair of GMs, both Minnesota and Iowa. Names that popped out. I don't think we're going to go over all 8 of those names, because then there's also been some other AHL two-way signings. But
yeah, I can rattle them off with some quick notes on each if you want. I wrote some stuff down.
Feel free, and then I'll give my kind of the things that jumped out on my end as I was reading that press release when it came out. But all things considered, it seems like Minnesota, Iowa evaluated what was missing last year, which was organizational depth. Right when Minnesota took Mermis, when they took Lettieri, when they took Lucchini, not that there weren't good players down in Des Moines to help, but it maybe just wasn't the right players at the time.
Cupboard was bare.
Yes, it seemed like it. And the players that were identified, specifically in that day of signing, all do exactly that. They bring experience. A few of them bring really high-end leadership, success at the American League level, and also a handful of guys that have had success both at the American League level and as a depth player in the National Hockey League. So I know, based off the development camp discussions I had, which most teams are at this point, but very happy, very excited. Minnesota still right now playing with one hand behind their back with the cap crunch. So Iowa could be a little bit advantageous at the fact that Minnesota can't go out and spend $4 million on one player. They can't do it right now. So what they had to do is exactly what they did, and fill their cupboard with depth players that should help Iowa.
Yeah, and that's one thing we've said for a long time, right? You need those veterans who can kind of ride that I-35 bus up and down, who can go up and make an impact, but you need guys who are going to make an impact here on the AHL level. And I think that they brought in some guys who have proven to be able to do that, and have also proven to be pretty consistent on the NHL side too. And it's not just forwards, but they literally went from the front end to the back end all the way through, and added some guys. So yeah, I think if we want to just run through the NHL, the two-way signings there, and then on the flip side, on the back end, we can get to the two AHL signings and some of the other stuff. But so I'll just go forward all the way through. So Ben Jones, he's a forward coming to us from the Calgary Wranglers. Led their team in goals last year. Was also second in points. You need goal scorers in this league. That's no secret. So that's a big one, I think, for us to have, an area where at times we lacked a little bit last year. So Ben Jones is a guy I think fans will love. Keep an eye on. Devin Shore played a little bit with Seattle, but spent some time in Coachella, especially come playoff time with them. He put up 25 points in 39 games for Coachella just last year alone. But the big thing with him, NHL pedigree, 443 NHL games. You can't replace that. You can't mimic that. You can't pretend to have that. That's a huge, huge, huge asset, especially for someone with a team. We've got such a young team, so giving guys that experience is huge. Reese Johnson, another NHL player, he's played 140 more NHL games than AHL games, played 141 NHL games, all with the Chicago Blackhawks. He's played 83 AHL games as well. So again, another guy with NHL experience, somebody who Minnesota may rely on at times, but somebody who we're going to rely really, really heavily on our end in Iowa. Travis Boyd, 2018 Stanley Cup champion Travis Boyd. Make sure you put that in there when you talk about Travis Boyd. 296 NHL games. He's got 172 points in 221 AHL games. He's an AHL All-Star. So again, another guy with experience, proven that he can play at both levels and play well at both levels. So that's another big forward piece. And the last one up front, who I think, obviously with the retiring of Stephen Fogarty, someone you're really going to look to from a leadership standpoint, Brendan Gaunce, who played 24 games with the Columbus Blue Jackets, but spent a lot of time, obviously, with the Cleveland Monsters, who we talked about a lot early on in the offseason with their playoff run. He was their captain, 39 points in 46 games. He's got 233 points in 343 AHL games. Former first-round pick, so someone who's a high pedigree guy, but a big-time leader. And I know, just having watched a couple media clips, Cleveland thinks really high. The people in Cleveland thought really high of him as well. So that is the forward group. So before I dive into defensemen and goalies, what are your thoughts on the forwards?
Yeah, all of them I think are going to really be great options. I said this last season. I say it every season. When there's big crops of two-way signings, you won't see all of them. That's the point. Some of those guys, depending on how they come into camp, you may not see a Travis Boyd. He might make Minnesota right out of camp. Reese Johnson might make Minnesota right out of camp. You might see a little bit of them, but that's the whole point. It doesn't matter if you don't see all of them, because you're going to have a Gons, or if Gons finds a way to be the NHL guy, you're going to have Boyd. There's these interchangeabilities that it didn't feel like Minnesota had that last year. Minnesota identified that. It didn't help Iowa that they didn't have that last year. The re-signing of Sammy Walker, we should throw that in there too. That's going to help too. I am just so confident in who he is as a person that I think he's going to be someone that will bounce back. Sophomore slumps happen. That doesn't define his career. And he's going to have more firepower around him. It sounds like with this crop of players this year. And yeah, Ben Jones is a sleepy one, because I've always, in the small sample sizes I've seen of him, he was in Henderson a few years back when the Wild played them. And I remember thinking he stood out really, really well in those games, and then went up to Calgary and had two fantastic seasons. But to me, Gons is the headliner because of your point in the leadership. And I had multiple people reach out to me and say, you are going to love this guy. Like, just unsolicited. The day he got signed, got text saying, you wait till you meet him, wait till you meet him. And on top of that, he has been productive in the American Hockey League. So that to me is one of the home run signings. If you're looking at it from an Iowa lens, if you're looking at it from a Minnesota lens, you might say differently. But yeah, a lot to be said about those signings, I think, for Iowa this year and for Minnesota.
And you touched on Sammy Walker. Adam Raska also re-signed, and Graham Clark, who came through in the Beckman trade, which we'll get to. But Graham Clark, who, and I've said this to you a couple times, at the All-Star game this past year in San Jose, he was a guy that stood out in a room full of All-Stars, which is not an easy thing to do. So offensively, given also just the additions, but we have returning to, it's certainly something to be excited about. So, all right, the back end, you've got Cameron Crotty, who played in Tucson last year. On the younger side, played at BU as well. But a guy who brings some more depth, someone who maybe more of a depth defenseman signing for Iowa more than anything. Joe Ciccone played with Rochester last year. He's won a gold medal at the World Juniors, helped take Michigan to the Frozen Four. I know Jeff Peterson in our office is stoked about having a Michigan guy on our roster. So he's another guy, a little bit older, but again, could be will be a valuable leadership piece on the back end for us, which once we lost Dakota last year was a difficult piece to come by with such a young group. Those are your two defensemen, and then you got Troy Grosnick, who I could wax poetic about all day long if we really wanted to. But he went last year, obviously played for Milwaukee, went 17-8-2, splitting time with Askarov, who was also phenomenal. I mean, 2 years in a row that team's gone to the conference finals. 324 AHL games, 169, 101, and 32. He's got a sub-3 goals against average, an over 900 save percentage, 21 shutouts. He's won the Baz Bastian Award, which is the top goaltender, and he's won the Hap Holmes Award, which is the goaltender with the lowest goals against average, I believe. So a guy who comes with a lot of pedigree. This guy, like Zane was, he was a Hobie Baker finalist at one point in his college career. Somebody who I'm a little surprised he's here, to be honest. I was talking with him when they were here, when Milwaukee came in one time. He's from Milwaukee. He said he didn't want to play anywhere else ever. If it wasn't Milwaukee, he was going to retire. But obviously, with the year he had last year, he must have felt he had something left in the tank. And Milwaukee's obviously heading in their own directions with things. So I'm stoked to have him. Great community person. Another guy who we're going to like to have. So that's kind of your defensive core and back end signings.
Well, and how do we not know that Troy tuned in to Riding the Bus, one of the episodes where we were gloating about what a great person we know he is, how good of a goalie he is. I mean, we might have had a hand in getting him to Iowa for all we know. I mean,
Possible.
officially, unofficially.
Yeah, we'll have to ask him because I think we talked about at the beginning of the offseason. We were putting our plans together. We'd said, a lot of the new faces that come in through free agency, we wanted to at least try to get some of them on at some point during the summer. He's someone who I don't think we'd have any issue connecting with, and we'll ask him. That'll be our first question.
Yeah,
how
exactly.
How much did this podcast have an influence? And we'll get the true answer on how much weight Riding the Bus carries. We'll figure that out. But yeah, so good pieces on the back end for sure.
Yeah, and Crotty and Ciccone to me are really important because of the point that you made. Now there's layers. There's options, there's guys that you don't go from whatever, I'm trying to remember how many games Murmis had under his belt compared to the rest of our D-core last year, but I think it was more. I think he had more in one career than our entire D-core did. Mine, if you take Brendan Miller out of the equation, and all of a sudden he goes and you've got 3 second-year pros and 3 rookies on your blue line. I remember there was a night in Winnipeg that was the setup, and that will not be the case this year. Even though you're going to have those same young players around, Hunt will likely see a little bit. Lambos will be around. Masters will likely be around. You'll have Spotcheck around. O'Rourke is around. But now you're going to be able to plug in Ciccone, plug in Crotty, who are mid-range pros. And I think teams with mid-range pros, 4 to 7 years, that's kind of the sweet spot for AHLers, in my opinion. And that's the window those guys are in. And so that's going to be a big addition. And yeah, Grosenick, we've talked enough about him. We can talk more about it maybe later on. I think he'd be someone that maybe would be great to have on the show at some point. Before we get to Mikey Milne, we should touch on, you brought up Graham Clark, the departure of Adam Beckman. We should also touch on the departure of Dakota Murmis and Mason Shaw. Mason Shaw signing with Winnipeg, Dakota Murmis signing with Toronto, Adam Beckman getting traded to New Jersey. All 3 guys, all for different reasons, massively impactful people, massively impactful players, really guys that will be hard to replace amongst my hall of greatness in my time with the Iowa Wild. Murmis, just what a fantastic leader, what a fantastic defenseman, and good on him. I mean, this is a guy who we got to see him achieve his childhood dream before our eyes. And though it hurt the Iowa Wild when it happened, it was obviously so enjoyable to watch someone like him do that. Just not the room for him in Minnesota, but now he's going to get that chance to play in Toronto, which is, to play in hockey's holy city. That's going to be pretty special for him and for his family too. Obviously, Adam Beckman, what a marvelous personality, what a marvelous hockey player. Seems like it might be both teams are going to be happy with it because Graham Clark must be in a similar spot. Both 3rd-round draft picks, skilled players, scorers that they couldn't quite find their way into the National League fold. Maybe this is what both of these guys need to do that. They will likely both start in the American League, I would imagine, and get their chance to earn their chance into Minnesota and or New Jersey. But can't say enough about Adam and the energy he brought. I'm going to miss how loud he was every day in the locker room, even if it was 7 a.m. That guy brought so much energy and became a pretty big leader for the team towards the end of his time. And then to finish, Mason Shaw, it's been so well documented what he meant to this organization, both St. Paul and Des Moines. And he will be missed dearly. Had a chance to catch up with him over the phone a couple of days ago, and obviously just had nothing but great things to say about everybody in Des Moines and everybody in Minnesota. And that's the business. Good people leave. And I certainly hope that Mason does a wonderful job in Winnipeg and plays some great games, with the exception of against the Minnesota Wild. Although
we'll see. I mean,
you know he's going to play his best games against Minnesota. You
of
just
course,
know
they
it.
always do.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
just know it.
you're going to see these guys quite a bit. I mean, at least Mason Shaw, because whether he's in Winnipeg, whether he's with the Jets, or if he's because he signed a two-way, or if he's playing with the
Yeah.
Moose, the Wild organization is going to see him. The other guys you may not see as much of are Beckman and Merms. And I talked a little bit with Dakota when he signed, and he's obviously really excited about the opportunity to be in Toronto. I don't know that it's the deal he was truly hoping for. I think he was hoping for a one-way deal. I mean, it sounds like he's probably going to be that first guy recalled from Toronto or from the Marlies. They're both Toronto, from the Marlies if they need somebody. But it's exciting. And obviously Beckman, I think, like you said, I think it's just sometimes you run to that point where it's time for a change of scenery for both guys. And, it's hopefully it's something that benefits them. Clark may have been somebody there just may not have been a ton of room in New Jersey. They're a high-powered offense, and he may just not have been able to crack in for whatever reason. But like I said, I'm excited to have him here because of what I saw him do at the All-Star game. He was pretty talented, so that's exciting. But yeah, we wish all those guys the best of luck, and the new guys coming in got some big shoes to fill. That's for sure.
Time for a change of scenery here. We go from Boston and Des Moines to St. Paul. Actually, Joey was still in Boston during this interview. He zoomed in. We recorded this interview with Mikey Milne, who was not at development camp, but he's in Minnesota all summer training. So a great chat with Mikey Milne. Let's head to period 2 with the former Winnipeg Ice forward and also a guy who lost his mattress in the middle of a Des Moines highway once upon a time, Mikey Milne.
On to period number 2, and we've changed venues. You may notice if you're on YouTube, you're seeing the set for the Wild on 7th podcast. So a little pub for our friends up north who do a great job of covering the Minnesota Wild. We've got a future potential Minnesota Wild player with us, Minnesota Wild draft pick now as we head on to period 2, and 2-year pro with the Iowa Wild. Mikey Milne joins us now. And Mikey, we're here in Minnesota. Development camp is going on right now. First and foremost, you don't have to be a part of development camp this year. Not that you didn't like development camp, not that you didn't have a good time at development camp, but it's nice to graduate on from it, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited for this. But yeah, obviously not doing development camp this year. It was a great time when I did. I did it the past couple of years, and you learn a lot and you meet a lot of the prospects. But yeah, now I'm with the older group now and training every day throughout the week, and it's been great. Just meeting new guys as well, and being in that pro kind of lifestyle. You learn a lot, especially from the older guys. So I'm having a lot of fun up here. Know a few guys from Iowa as well. So it's been a great summer, and yeah, staying here for the rest of summer. So I'm looking forward to it.
I want to get to life in Minnesota, to training in Minnesota. Lots of things I want to get to. The bus story we'll get to. But for starters, let's stay on the trend of development camp. Your years coming here, your years in development camp. Yes, the players are here for Bill Guerin, for Mike Murray, for all the brass, the coaches, to see them play. But they're also here to get to know each other, to have a good time. There's a lot of fun that is had throughout the course of development camp. What are some of the fun memories where maybe you can think back to with now some of your current teammates where you were sitting gut-bustingly laughing at something that happened at development camp?
Yeah, I think when you go to your first development camp, you're definitely nervous because you don't know anyone. And luckily for me, I played with Carson Lambeau. So just going to camp, I knew a familiar face, which helped a lot. And then meeting a lot of other guys, a lot of Western League guys, and even college guys that you kind of get to know throughout the week. But I think the bonding really happens at night. I know when I did my camp, we did go-karting, we did volleyball and all that fun stuff. So, yeah, we got great memories from that. I'm a 2-time defending volleyball champ, so it's not a big deal, but I like to definitely mention it to the other guys. But no, you have a lot of fun. It's a great time, and definitely builds you closer. You're only there for about a week, but by the end of it, you feel like you've met a lot of new friends. So it's great.
That was a slick slide in there, Goldstein, with the defending.
Yeah, humble brag. Yeah, quite the humble brag there. We'll get into it, but I hear there's a few humble brags that kind of bounce around here and there, more so related to the golf game. I hear you like to drop subtle humble brags when it comes to you and your golf game.
Yeah, I feel like recently my game's been great. I'm really loving my game where it's at right now. I've been playing a lot while I've been here, so. but yeah, it's been a lot of fun just playing new courses and all that. But I think when I play, I love to play a match. I love to play for something all the time. So got a pretty good story actually the other day, golfing with Kevin Conley and then Gavin Hayne and then our equipment guy Johnny Bones. So it was a 2v2. I was with Kevin and we were playing high-low, so basically you get a point for if you get the best score on the hole, and then the other team gets a point if like your player gets the worst type of thing. So going into 18, we were down 2 points. I hit my drive down the right side. Must have hit a car path. It's a par 5, about 500 yards. I was on the right side, couldn't see the green, couldn't even really see the hole at all. And I was thinking about going down the other fairway to give myself like a better shot at it. And Kevin said, you should just go over the trees, try to get in the fairway, and then you can try going up and down from there. Because we basically needed a birdie to even consider winning the match or even tying it. So he said, just put it over those trees and see what happens. So I pulled out my 56, kind of just hit my shot, put the bag back in my, or put the club back in my bag, and we kind of drove around because we were on the other hole. And Kevin was up, he was hitting his shot, and he put on the green, and Gavin yelled over and he was like, who's on the green? And then Kevin was like, yeah, that's me. And he said, no, there's 2 balls. And I'm like, there's no way, right? Like I couldn't even see the hole. And we drive up and yeah, I was about 10 feet from the hole putting for eagle and ended up draining the putt, and probably the biggest fist pump of my career. I mean, it was pretty awesome. So eagle was worth 3 points. But Gavin ended up sinking his birdie putt. So we ended up tying the match. But yeah, I love golf. I love being competitive, and that was one for the ages for sure.
Also, a fantastic job telling that story. I was shot for shot with you there. That's not easy to do that. Joey was witnessing it all the way from Massachusetts. You were able to put him right there on the green with you. That was. And sounds like a hell of a moment for you. And so, did you say that was on 18?
That was on 18. So
you guys just ended in a tie, though? Like for someone who likes to play for something, I assume you want to win. You just tied?
Yeah, we were out at a pretty nice course, so we were lucky to even get on. So didn't want to push the boundaries on that. But, yeah, the match will for sure be continued at another time because ending in a tie I don't like that idea.
So that was the best shot you've probably seen, for sure you probably hit this summer. Is there a worst shot you've seen and you can utilize yourself on this, or feel free here on Ridin the Bus? We love when our guests throw their teammates under the bus.
Yeah, all right. Well, I mean, I'll go back at my teammate. So Kevin, he'll if he listens to this, he'll know that I'm in good spirits with it. But I think there was a hole, par 5. He has a great driver, so he put it down the middle. Second shot, puts it beside the green. So really, you go up and down, you get a birdie. So he was kind of in the thick rough, and he went for his third shot and kind of just it went about maybe 1 yard, and then he hit his next shot, and it probably went 2 yards. And then he hit his third shot, and he sculled it over the green. So I wouldn't say it was one bad shot. It was kind of a complication of just one after the other, and I don't think he ended up finishing the hole, but we only lost 1 point off it, so it happens to everyone.
It does happen to everybody. I got a story of my own. So I got out here to start my vacation. I went out, played golf with my brothers. I shot an 88. Best I've ever played. Never shot that low in my life. I was pumped. Went out yesterday, and golfed. Was on a short par 4. Drove well. I was pin high, but left of the green. So nice up and down. I should have no problem getting a birdie. I ended up getting a triple.
Oh God.
Because I duffed both of my chips, and then I went over the green, and then I ended up like 3-putting. So it was a nightmare.
Oh my!
It was a nightmare.
Yeah, it happens to everyone. You hit one bad shot, and then you're in your head about it, and then you get the yips. And yeah, I totally feel you. I got another one actually. I 4-putted the other day for the first time, and I don't know how long, but I kind of put it past the hole, and the hole was at the front of the green, so I had a downhill putt, and I guess I was pretty scared, so I hit it and didn't even get halfway to the hole. And then I hit my second one a little too hard, and then now I'm chipping, so I don't know how that happened. But then I chipped it back on.
So it was a three putt plus a chip.
I guess, yeah. But just not in the right order.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
But yeah, it was pretty funny.
Oh,
Up on 18 where you're sticking it 10 feet from the pin, and you're like, this is the greatest game ever. I can't wait to come back.
Exactly. It's those shots that make you want to come back for sure.
And the other shots that make you want to throw your clubs in a lake.
Yeah,
There before.
I've also seen that. Yeah.
You've seen someone throw their clubs in a lake?
I actually have another story about a friend back home, but
Hey, we're here to hear these stories. We are
Okay.
all
Come
about
on,
them.
bring it
We're
on.
all about them.
all right, so we're golfing. So this is back in Calgary with one of my buddies that I played in junior, and he's a pretty competitive guy, and so am I. So I think it was hole 14. I'm up by one hole, and he hits his driver. It's a par 4. He's just on the left side, and then he's hitting his second shot in, but it's one of those holes where you can't really see the green. And I drove it past him, and I could kind of see where the hole was, and I said it's to the left, and I guess he misunderstood what I was saying, and he hit it right. So when he went up to his ball, he was pretty upset because he was like, he thought he hit a perfect shot, and he wasn't on the green. So I hit my shot. I'm just off the back of the green, and then he's hitting his third shot, and we're in a match. So I thought it would be pretty funny. He hit his shot. He ends up draining it from about, I want to say 80 yards, chips in. But he had no reaction. So I thought it would be funny if I had no reaction. He goes up to the green, and he's like, "Where's my ball?" And I'm like, "Come on, man. Like I know he knows it went in, I guess. But I guess he didn't because it was a little downhill. Hole was tucked away. So he starts looking for his ball.
Oh,
and
my gosh.
the way he is, I'm like, this guy's just playing with me. So I go, I'm helping him look for it, I guess. And he was pretty upset. And he's like, are you kidding me? Like, I thought I hit a great shot. Like, where's his ball? And before I could tell him that it went in the hole, he ended up throwing his club, and it hit a tree and it snapped in half. So I just felt terrible because he actually genuinely didn't know it went in the hole.
Oh, God.
So I felt terrible after that. We didn't end up even finishing the match because he was so upset at me. So it's definitely something I regret, but
But at the same time, you don't know he's going to break a club.
Exactly.
You can't. Yeah, you can't.
So-
No, I wouldn't. I mean, I get sweating that a little bit, but you can't beat yourself up over that.
No.
You're having fun razzing a buddy, and they're the one that decided to throw the club into a tree. We've all
Exactly.
thrown a club, but wow, that's a tale.
It's unfortunate. He's one of my best friends, so we were able to get over it pretty quick. But in the moment, I was like, "Oh my!" So I'm never gonna do that.
How
again.
did you break the news to him after that happened? Hey, by the way,
Well, he kind of just threw his club and just walked up to the cart, and I had already like tapped in for whatever, and then I walked over and we were driving to the next hole. I'm like, "Hey, like, you know that shot went in?" And he's like, "Wait, what did you say?" And I said, "Yeah, like you made it. You made birdie." And he's like, "No, I didn't." So he does the slow walk up, and he looks in, and he just looks at me, and yeah, I can't really explain the rest of what
no,
happened.
I'm sure
but
it's not safe for our audience, but
No.
my goodness. Wow, that is – I've heard some great golf tales, Mikey, but that one's up there. I mean, the fact that he did not have a reason to be angry
No.
in truth, yet that still happened. Wow. Well, we do need to get to we have talked so much golf already, which I had on the docket. I do want to – especially I don't like missing this one because Joey will razz me to death if I miss asking our guests about a great bus story as he leans back and smirks. Two, when we get a Western Leaguer on this podcast, Western Leaguers have great bus stories because you've spent so much time on the bus in the Western League. So we are on the bus. Clearly, fans are comfortable. You're comfortable. We've already enjoyed this ride, these great stories you've told us. But from a bus story perspective, any great stories that come to mind when I say in the career of Mikey Milne, what jumps out from a great bus story from your vantage point?
Yeah, there's obviously so many. Yeah. Like being from Canada and playing in the Western League, like there's so many long bus rides. Like, I mean, playing in Winnipeg, you got to bus 24 hours, usually once a year for some trips. But the one that sticks out to me was actually when I was in Bantam, so I was a little younger, and getting used to those bus rides because you're never really used to it. But I was playing in Abbotsford for Yale, and we went to Calgary, and then we wrapped up the tournament. We ended up winning the tournament, so it was good spirits. And then we were on our way home, and I just remember it was about 3 or 4 in the morning. Bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere.
Where every great bus story starts. Bus breaks down.
So
now we're off.
You never know what to do. So you're kind of just procrastinating, trying to like find something to do. You think it's going to be a quick fix, and then we take it into a shop, and yeah, there's no quick fix. So we got to start killing time somehow. Luckily, yeah, we're in good spirits. We just won the tournament. So I just remember getting out a soccer ball, and we're just playing sewer ball in the middle of a gas station parking lot, and I just remember how fun that was, because that like adrenaline you have from winning the tournament, and now you're stuck on a bus in the middle of nowhere. I just remember that as such a good memory, and it was just so fun. But yeah, we didn't get home till the next morning. I want to say 10, 11 a.m. So just that hole is just a whirlwind. Honestly, you don't really believe what just happened, but it was probably one of the best days I've had.
And to me, those are the reasons why teams bond together. I mean, you'll share that memory with whoever those teammates were for the rest of your life. Yes, teams that win together walk together forever. I think is that maybe a quote from the Canadians or something? There's a famous man who said that quote. But also teams that go through hell and back together, whether it's funny experiences or difficult experience, adversity, that helps to build it too. You have gone through a tremendous amount of adversity recently with the injury that you sustained last summer, did not jump back into the lineup until January. The end of your year was a fantastic one. I know you got a ton of momentum coming into your third year pro, but I don't want to talk a ton about the injury, but it's an important part of your journey. What'd you learn about yourself in that stretch? And also, how much did you bond with Caden Bankier during that time? Because you guys were going through it together, much like I alluded to earlier. Going through adversity with someone is a great way to become a lifelong friend.
For sure. Yeah, you said it great. I mean, going through an injury, it's never fun. I mean, I guess luckily for me, I had someone to go through it with. So I think the hardest part is initially knowing how long the recovery is going to take. You can't fix yourself in the first couple of weeks. You really just got to do nothing for a while. And that's when you really get in your head and you really start thinking. And I've had a shoulder surgery before, so I kind of knew what to expect in a way, but it just felt like it came at such a bad time. After my first year pro, I wanted to make an impact in my second year, and I felt like I could build off that year. So getting injured was not great. And I just thought of ways on how I can come out of this and be an impact player. It obviously took a little while to do that, but I think once I started to get a hang of things and started to get my confidence back, it really came together for me. And as well as Banks, I mean, he started playing before I did, so it was kind of a refreshing way to look at it, because I saw him and he had such early success that I was like, okay, like I can probably do this. I can come back and be an impact player. So we went through that whole thing together, and now we're great friends. We roomed together everywhere we went. We went to Minnesota, roomed together, went down to Iowa, roomed together. So, we've kind of been through it all together, but just keeping each other positive. I know when we were injured, sitting up in the stands, we would talk about if we played together, the type of plays we could make and how fun it will be. So just staying positive with each other is the best way to look at things, I think. When you get negative, you really go down a dark hole. So and then a lot of credit to the people around me, family, friends, all that. So, but yeah, I'm glad it's in the past, and I can look forward to this next year, because I'm super excited, and it's going to be a great opportunity for all of us. I think we got a good group this year, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Caden's been in Minnesota this summer. You've been here. You mentioned Kevin Conley, been around. You've been rooming with Liam Ogren this summer, though he's headed back to Sweden here shortly. But what's been the journey this offseason? What's been the things you guys have been up to? I'm sure you and Banks, per usual, have been attached at the hip, doing a lot of things together. What have been some of the highlights of your guys' summer so far? And also, have there been any great – I just think about being your age and summertime, and I never did it as a pro athlete, but – you get into some shenanigans when you have so much time on your hands. Like, what have been some of the fun shenanigans this summer that this group of Iowa Wild, Minnesota Wild players that have been living in the St. Paul, Minneapolis area have been getting into?
Yeah, I mean, we've been golfing a lot. We've been playing pickleball. We went to Dick's Sporting Goods first week we got here, and we bought a basketball. We bought tennis rackets. So we're staying
multi-sport athletes, baby.
We're staying pretty active.
Yeah, they're doing it all.
Because like you said, we have so much time after we work out and skate. So that's been a lot of fun. But I mean, first week I got here, So I drove whatever it was, 27, 28 hours, and I think it was the second day I was here trying to settle in, and then my truck breaks down. So that wasn't ideal. So I didn't have my truck for about 3 weeks.
It's a relatively new truck, isn't it?
It is too.
Yeah.
So it was kind of weird and frustrating. But so Banks ended up having to drive me for the 3 weeks. I didn't have a vehicle.
We haven't heard the end of that, I'm sure.
Yeah. So, but I mean, when he came to Iowa last year, he was dealing with his injury, and he didn't have a vehicle for about a month. So it's funny how it kind of worked its way around.
It comes around.
I drove him for a month. Now he's driving me for a month. But I guess that brought us even closer, because every morning you're talking to him on the way to the rink and on the way back. So, I mean, that was not fun, but we had fun while we were in there. And Ogie, he loves his Swedish music, so occasionally we would give him the aux, and he's actually a pretty good singer. He loves Swedish rap. So if you ever get him on a podcast or something, I'm sure he'd do a good job.
Make a mental note of that, right? Yeah,
we're
going
to for later.
File save on that. I know that's how Goldstein's mind works whenever we unearth stuff like this.
Yeah. There's all this talk about this rivalry between you and Lambo and Banks and Kyle Masters, and it's come up a couple different times. We've talked to Banks about it. We've talked to Carson about it. So I want to get your take on this rivalry, because it sounds like these NHL games get intense. There's some questionable tactics that are thrown around in these games. So let's hear your perspective on how this is going.
For sure. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I mean, I love NHL. I love playing video games with friends. I mean, I don't really play in the summer, but you know, when you get to camp and you're in the hotel together, there's not a whole lot to do besides, you know, be together with the guys. And I think it was last year in camp we got a 2v2 going. It was me and Carson versus Masty and Banks, and I would say the matches are pretty even, but we definitely have like different ways to handle it. I would say Kyle's the best player out of the four of us, but I think the way me and Lambo work together is it's something special. I think we've been friends since we've been 16, so we kind of know how to interact with each other. And when we play NHL, we're not down on each other. We just lift each other up, and it's funny because you look across the room and you just see these two guys just bickering at each other, and you're like, oh my gosh, like you score one goal and you know you kind of won the game already, because you just don't know what's going to happen. Banks might walk out of the room or something like that. So it's pretty funny how it works, but it's such a great time. And yeah, there's definitely some shenanigans that go on during the games, but it's in all good spirits, and yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It's interesting that that's the dynamic, because talking to your teammate Carson Lambos, the one thing he says that he loves about you is you're always in the mix. Like and we're seeing it here on this podcast. You love to be in the middle of conversation. He called you giddy. He literally called you giddy. You're always I want to be involved in this. I want to be involved in that. My question for you is, do you think that your teammates have ever taken advantage of knowing how much you want to be involved and purposely excluded you from conversations to try to get under your skin?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I love talking, especially on the road. I love, you know, going out for dinner and stuff like that. And so I sit on the bus, usually at the front of the bus. But I just remember one time, it was after a game, I was a little late to the bus, and then there was 4 guys already taking the front of the bus, which is like, usually, and I think we won the game too, so that's like the best time to just
green light there,
have great conversations, play cards, all that. So I just remember sitting in the back, like, and they just look like they're just having such a great time, and I'm just by myself. I think Spacho's beside me, but he's sleeping, so the last thing I want to do is just go on my phone and listen to music. So I just remember them like looking back and like enjoying their time, and like I even texted them like, hey, what's up? Like, we should play cards or something. But they just, yeah, they like to do that. And Lambo especially, like, he knows that I love to talk and I love to be in conversation. So I think they started doing it to a point where like they wanted to piss me off, but I kind of had a feeling they were doing it on purpose. So I just came up, I grabbed one of those Gatorade things that you sit on, and then I just pulled up in between the two of them, and then they try to ignore me. So it's in all good spirits, but that's definitely a time where they were trying to get under my skin.
They were doing it on purpose. I think it was Lambo was on here with us a couple weeks ago and told us this exact story.
Yeah,
and
confirmed.
He's like, we could see Mikey wanted to be in the mix, so we just kind of made it seem like we were talking, having a really good time when they really weren't doing much of anything. So it was definitely intentional.
Oh my! Well, I'll have to get them back somehow. I got a lot of ways that I could, but
Do you get involved in the pranks at all? Do you get involved in that, or are you more like in the mix conversationally?
I just like to, yeah, I guess just in the mix, just like to have conversation. I mean, I don't really like to, pull too many pranks. Not that I can think of off the top of my head.
Only telling your best friend that he didn't chip in, so he breaks his club over a tree.
Yeah, maybe something
only
like that.
Only doing those kind of pranks.
I feel like I've kind of settled down after that one, but I mean, there's a time and a place for sure. And I think when you're younger too, it's tougher to pull those type of pranks. But like in Winnipeg, like once you get older, it's, you put a water cup under a helmet and all that. But those type of things, I feel like as I get older, I'll feel more comfortable doing them because I would say I enjoy that, like getting a kick out of things. So, but as of right now, I try to keep it pretty mellow and low key until my time comes where I can, really branch out and be myself completely.
Watching you last year, specifically in the final 11 games, you were a point a game in the final 12 or 11 games of the year. I think you're actually over point a game, 12 points in your last 11 games. Huge driver in when Iowa was playing its best hockey. There's not a soul that would refute that. You guys were at your best mid-March through April, playing great hockey, and you were a huge part of that. What clicked there, and how much can you take what you learned from that stretch of play and right away, healthy Mikey Milne, come October, start driving the bus right off the hop next year?
Yeah, I mean, I felt like last year took me a little while to get back into it, and I know when I came back, the team was we were going through injury troubles, and it was kind of a tough sled for a little while there, and then I guess after All-Star break, just had a little bit of time to reflect and kind of take a breather because I feel like you go into it, and I think I played 5 games on the California road trip right when I got back, so it was kind of a whirlwind of emotions, and the body wasn't feeling too great. So I feel like after that, just kind of doing a mental reset, and we also had a players only meeting in Henderson there, so it kind of brought the group together a little bit more, and from that point on, I felt like we kind of just played with like a nothing to lose attitude, just kind of go out there and we're not high in the standings right now, but we can give a fight, and I feel like from that point on, every game, even if we were losing games, they were by 1 or 2 goals.
Yep.
Like we were in every game, and I just felt like as the year went on, I personally felt more confident. I felt like I could be kind of more of a leader on the ice and drive the play. I was given a great opportunity to do so, so I just tried to run with it, and I feel like there was a game where I felt like my confidence was at a low, and the next game I ended up having one of my better games, and from that point on I tried to just run with it, and I was like I can be an impact player, I can do this, and I think confidence is something that is super important, and you don't have it all the time, so when you do, you try to run with it as much as you can, and I think as the team started to progress and we started to win more games, my play also improved, so the team did a great job of kind of rallying together, and you saw a lot of guys have individual success down the road. So I'm just looking to continue that next year. It's going to be a huge summer for me, and I'm just really looking forward to starting where I left off.
In that same vein, confidence and having to bounce back. You're not an old man. You're a young man. You're just experiencing the world for the first time as a pro hockey player. This is year 3 for you, but you've had to bounce back a lot, whether it's because of injury, whether it's because of where your play wasn't where it was at. Can you put a finger on what you've learned about how to bounce back? Because the more you do it, I'd imagine the easier it gets, and then eventually it allows you to bounce back quicker and have, instead of it's 5 games you didn't like, it's 3, and then it's 1, and then it's 1 period, right? Like, have you learned at all what maybe the elements of bouncing back looks like and trying to generate that confidence again and doing it internally?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just sticking with it. I mean, there's games where you feel like you could have played well and the bounces just weren't going right for you. I think it's if you wake up every day and you have a routine and you do everything you can. If you're eating healthy, you're going to bed on time, you're training as hard as you can, and then you're going out there and you're just not playing well. I feel like for me, it's like I'm doing everything I can to put my best foot forward. So when you are going through a little bit of a slump and things aren't working, you can kind of look at it like this isn't going to last forever. Like it's going to change at some point. So I feel like I've kind of always been like that growing up, like being the smallest guy growing up as well. Like there's a lot of games where I'm just getting pushed around and feel like I can't find myself, but just always trying to work as hard as you can, especially in practice. I feel like in practice I try to work, as hard as I can because growing up I was always the smallest, so I had to skate as fast as I could to keep up to the older guys and the bigger guys. So I feel like that's helped me moving forward. And I think I've done a good job of bouncing back in my career. I mean, even from injuries as well, just sticking through it. A guy I look up to a lot is Mason Shaw, actually. So he's went through a lot of injuries, and he's still doing a great job at what he does. So I mean, even going through my last injury, I was able to, work out and train with him a little bit, and just watching how he works and how he handles himself, it's pretty cool to see. So, yeah, I would say combination of just, keeping your head forward and just working as hard as you can is a good combo.
Leads me wonderfully into my second to last question. I want to make sure Joey gets a chance. I'm always hogging the microphone in these interviews. But you bring up Mason Shaw. And I remember sitting in Tucson with Mason early when he had just started to make his comeback, beginning in Iowa, ending in Minnesota last season. And it was just him and I. We were sitting and talking just about the team and the players, and he brought up you. And he said he had a conversation with you about turning into more of, and not that you didn't have an edge before, but really taking in and taking to heart that pest edge mentality that Mason has so well. Because Shawzy said it, he goes, Mikey Milne can skate as well, if not as well as some of the best NHL skaters there are. And that's truth. I mean, your stride is one of the best I've seen. Mason agrees. His opinion means a lot more than mine does. But do you remember that conversation where he talked to you about taking more of that feisty attitude in the sport of hockey?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I feel like there's a lot of guys that can just, they can skate, they can stick handle, they can play the game, and they're efficient at what they do. But I think for Shawzy at least too, like he's obviously, he can skate, he can make plays, but I feel like the reason he got, he pushed it over the edge was because he played with that gritty style. I remember the story he told me. I think it was either a hit or he fought someone down in Iowa or something, and I just remember him telling me that after that game he ended up getting called up. So, I mean, it doesn't mean I have to fight or do any of that, but he said just go out there and just play with a little bit of an edge. Like, after the whistle, just give a guy a little shot. Like, and ever since then, like I've always loved to do that, but like especially now, I feel like whenever I'm out there, it definitely helps me get engaged. I always like to, first or second shift, go out there and do something to kind of get your adrenaline going. And it's fun when there's a guy that kind of wants to try to hit you. So I enjoy that, and it keeps me sharp in that. So. But yeah, that conversation was great. Like listening to him talk and I love advice. So a guy like that giving me advice, I'm definitely going to take it. And it's something that I've tried to like implement in my game. So it's super important to me.
Well, Joey knows my thoughts on players who play that way.
Ben likes to say he was one of those players who play that way. Ben plays that way when we play staff floor hockey. So I get it. I totally get it. I get it.
That's awesome.
I was going to ask you about the leadership side of it, because as going into your third year, like even at such a young age, like you are going to be a leader for this team. So hearing like who you kind of modeled that leadership style after, and obviously Mason's somebody who kind of took you under his wing. So that obviously answers that question. So I don't have to get too much into it. So really my last one for you, again, coming in on here on year 3, like when you think back to some of your best memories so far of playing for the Iowa Wild and being in Des Moines, what are some of the things that stick out to you most?
Best memories? I mean, I love being on the road. You feel like you make such great memories when you're on the road and you're going to those cool places out west. Just like going out for dinners with guys. I really enjoy the aspect of meeting new people. So, when you make a trade or guys get called up, just making them feel comfortable and having a good time like that. But yeah, I would say a lot of the good memories, I mean, a lot of them come back to the golf course. We love to golf. So, when it comes April, we were able to get out on the course quite a bit. And that's when we were playing our best hockey. So I don't know if that bonded us in a way, but I think some of the best memories are just away from the rink, playing cards. We would do that a lot. So we had a few guys that love to get active and love to do that type of stuff. So I would say a lot of memories just away from the rink, building connections, building bonds with other guys was a lot of fun.
Last one. Sorry, Joey, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, is there one, like, is there an on ice, like, is there a game or a moment from a game that stands out to you most? Like, we've talked to some guys, and I think it was Banks mentioned, Sammy's goal in overtime on Pink in the Rink night. Like, there's been some big moments or Sammy's goal in Chicago. Like, there's been some moments that have stuck out to people. Do you have one that stands out in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, now that you mentioned that Tucson game, that was right after the All-Star break, right? I think. And that game, Tucson was a great team, and I thought we played a pretty good game, and then I guess they ended up tying it up and went overtime, and I just remember the play, how it happened and stuff. That was pretty memorable. I mean, I think I was on the wall, and I ended up rimming the puck, and we were playing 3-on-3, so I had no idea why I tried to rim it. I was so tired, but just tried to do my best to get the puck and keep it in the zone. So I remember rimming the puck, which was a terrible play, but Huntsy ended up keeping it in somehow, and then I think he passed it to me or something happened. I ended up getting a shot off, and then rebound just came right back to me. I just remember passing it to Sammy, and he had a wide open net, and he ended up putting it home, and I just remember that feeling. It felt so good. I just remember talking to Walks after. He's like, it felt like it took me forever to get that shot off, because when you got an empty net, it's scary because you don't want to miss. So, but yeah, that was a great memory. There's another one. I guess one of our last games in Iowa against Grand Rapids, crowd was pretty great, and I just remember, I think it was Lambeau scoring a goal, just giving him the puck and seeing him celebrate. Like, I know he had a year that he learned a lot, and just seeing him have his success at the end of the year, it felt good to be able to do that together, and that was kind of like a lasting memory for that season. So that I would say that was another one.
The pass you made on the Walker, well, both won, but the Lambeau goal, I remember it was a little more of a layup. You made a great play to cut back, but there was a lot of room. The pass you made to Sammy on that goal was a thing of beauty, because you described it very pedestrianly. It was not a pedestrian play.
No, that was great.
Yeah, you had the guy slid, you had to wait off him, you pulled it to your backhand and slid it in front. It was a whale of a play. To finish with Carson, that's how I want to end this. You've known him since you were 16. You probably have played with him more than anybody else, maybe at least in your junior career and on. To see him take on this never say no attitude on the social media side, how many laughs have you had at his expense throughout the course of last year when you've seen him take on some of the crazy things he did? And we're not trying to push him away from doing it again next year, because Joey would really hate that if we pushed him away from being so open to these things.
Go-karting the other day. I don't think he's saying no to anything.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I love to see it. I mean, he's always kind of had that attitude, like he's gonna do whatever. If there's an opportunity presented to him, he's gonna take it. And I think that just shows kind of his leadership qualities, because there's a lot of guys that would maybe push away or not want to do that, but he kind of just takes it by the chin and does it and has fun with it. So I know in Winnipeg he was our captain, and he did a great job. So I feel like it just, those leadership qualities make him want to be outgoing and do those things. And it's fun to, I guess, even look up to. Even being older than him, I look up to him in the way he handles himself and the way he has fun time with all that stuff. So yeah, I hope he never changes, and I hope you guys never stop asking him.
We won't. We have no plans to stop asking him. Speaking of fun, Mikey, this has been a ton of fun. Anything we missed? Anything, you unfurled a couple of stories early that we didn't ask about. We want to make sure we don't close period 2 without at least giving you the floor one more time. If you got anything else you think our fans would enjoy.
I guess going back to your last question, memorable moments. I was just thinking about Fogues, actually. He just retired.
Yeah.
So
timely. Shout
out to Fogues, because he's someone that you look up to, and he's one of the greatest guys that I've ever played with. So, he was a big part of all us young guys just the way he handled himself and the way he went about his business was great to see. So back to the question about memorable moments, he came up before a game and he said, I think it was, how much money should I put on the board for having one kid? And then everyone went ballistic. And then he said, what if they're twins? And I just remember the whole locker room just going crazy because a guy like that, you're so happy for him. And then we ended up playing the game and he ended up scoring 2 empty net goals. So it was pretty fitting that that's the way it wrapped up. So that was pretty memorable. So yeah, I love Folks, and he was such a great leader for us.
To know Steven is to love Steven. I'd say the same about you, Mikey. This has been a real treat. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, Benny. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
A huge thank you to Mikey Milne. And as we alluded to before we got to the interview, Joey, very chatty, very talkative. Carson Lambo said he's giddy. He can't sit still. He didn't seem too giddy or kind of hot in his seat there, but he was comfortable. He was relaxed, and he certainly told a lot of stories. I don't know if we've had anybody yet, Joey, that has been so open and has just unfurled so many stories at us without us having to prompt him.
No, the golf course story. He told 3 or 4 golf course stories that were just like, oh, I got another one, and then this happened, and then this. So it was funny hearing him kind of dive into it on that front. But like you said, the giddy piece, I just go back to when we were interviewing Lambos, and he said when they were messing with him when he was in the front of the bus and he felt left out, wanted to be in the mix, and then hearing it from Mikey's point of view too was just perfect. So yeah, thanks to Mikey for coming on. We appreciate it, obviously. Somebody who I'm excited, I would assume that he's got a full healthy off season under him, which he obviously didn't have last year, but the way he finished the end of the season and he talked about getting that confidence. I'm excited I think there's huge things on the horizon for him here in his 3rd professional season.
I would agree. And we didn't really get to it much. We dipped our toe in the water on the hockey side, which we typically do, right? We don't want to, a lot of these players don't want to sit and talk hockey for a long time. They have more fun talking golf, obviously, and other things. But you're right. He's someone that is very much ready, it feels like, to step in and he said it too, to really help drive this team next year. And I would imagine is going to be given every opportunity to do so. And he earned himself more and more minutes as he got healthier last year. He was killing by the end of the season. He could be a guy that does maybe get a look on the power play at some point this season, depending on what the makeup looks like once Brett McLean gets his groups together. But yeah, I think the sky is the limit for a guy like him. And certainly with the motor that he has and with that approach that he has to play in your face smash mouth hockey too, that's another thing that's only going to allow him that much more latitude as to where he can fit into a lineup, not only in Des Moines, but in St. Paul too. And now that he's a 3rd-year pro, he's not out of the realm of potentially being a call-up if he were to get hot and Minnesota were to need that type of a player.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. He's got a lot of oh, hold on. How's the dog? Could you hear the dog there?
No, but bring him
No?
over. My cat just walked by right below too, a little more quietly.
The dog was just laying at my feet under the table and just got a little hot-headed. I
Pulls it
think
out.
chasing a squirrel.
We'll leave it in. We'll leave it in.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll leave it. We'll leave it in here. You guys are gonna love this part. Good podcasting. Anyways, yeah, no, Mikey's somebody who I think could certainly make a run. I mean, he's a guy who Brett, I felt like, put in a lot of situations at the end of the year to really succeed. And if he gets hot, here's what I go back to. We talked about using Mason Shaw as a mentor. And I could see him very quickly becoming a poor man's Mason Shaw, kind of that build. And when I say poor man's, like, I still think that an NHL like bottom 6 role is certainly within realm of possibilities for Mikey. So I think if he can continue to model his game after the way Mason played, not only are fans going to love it, but he's going to really set himself up for success being able to do that, because not only can he play that same style, but he's also, and no disrespect to Mason, Mason had 4 knee surgeries. Mikey's a hell of a lot faster than Shazi was. So he can use that speed to his advantage, especially in a league now where speed matters and speed is everything. So yeah, I'm excited to see what year 3 brings for him.
He finished with that terrific story about Stephen Fogarty. We have a couple more things to get to, so we're not going to finish with it, but we need to talk about it. Stephen, during our break from podcasting, announcing that his final game was with Iowa. His career is over, at least on the hockey side. He will be welcoming twins into the world. He and his wife Allie in the fall, which I'm sure was a big part of the decision. That is something that I know someone like Stephen will not take lightly, that being a father, and someone that we've spoken a lot about on this show. I've spoken a lot about on broadcasts. I don't need to spend a ton of time waxing on more about him. I think people know very well what I think about Stephen, but will be remembered in my book as one of the most loyal, honest, and just really terrific humans I've come across in hockey or otherwise. So congratulations to Stephen. Congratulations to his wife, Allie. And I'm sure Allie is sad for Stephen, but also thrilled that now her husband's going to be back full time, not on the road as much, and they're going to be able to really start their life and what the rest of their lives look like together. And so fantastic news for Stephen. He will be missed dearly, but kind of seems like it's the right decision for him and the right time for him. And what a career he had. NHL games behind him, a fabulous American League career. He like he said in his post, he achieved his dream. He played in the National Hockey League, and that's something very, very, very few people get to say they do and put that on their mantle when they're in their 30s.
Yeah, it's a guy who is, I mean, we've talked a lot about him, but just highly respected around the hockey world, right? I mean, you saw the AHL. The AHL very rarely posts when guys retire, right? You got to be a certain caliber to be able to get that. And Stephen Fogarty is that guy. I mean, almost 500 AHL games, 9 years pro, 2-time captain at the University of Notre Dame. I mean, this is a guy and he does everything on and off the ice. But like you said, it feels like he's at peace with it, right?
Yeah.
Guys know when it's time, and it's always nice when you can go out on your own terms versus having to go out some other way. He's happy with it. Couldn't be happier for him and Allie with the twins on the way, and just starting his life as a girl dad, and what comes next for him. So best of luck to the entire Fogarty family and what's coming up next, and congratulations on a fantastic career.
What are we finishing with? What's on the docket, Mr. Agenda?
So we got a couple other signings that we didn't get to on the front end. Some two-way AHL signings, so guys who are likely going to be depth guys. We may see some of Corville. We'll probably see a bit of these guys too. But Bradley Marek, not 100% sure, but played with San Jose last year for a little bit. Also spent some time in the ECHL in Wichita with the Thunder. And then Ryan Sandelin also played in the AHL last year with Colorado, but then spent some time in the ECHL with the Grizzlies as well. Some depth guys, I think Kevin Conley type guys who are going to can kind of slot in anywhere really in the lineup. But guys, when I say Conley his first year here, who these guys will have opportunities, obviously, to cement themselves as regulars in the lineup like Cons did. But in the meantime, kind of be in those as guys come up to Minnesota, as we talked about, with all these depth guys going up and down, we're going to need pieces like that. So we had those two guys. Shout out real quick, very, very quickly, because I'm sick of hearing this one over and over again, but shout out to Hershey for winning the Calder Cup. Good for you. Back-to-back years. Great. Thanks. Let's let somebody else do it next year. Cool. We're on agreement. Great. Next on the docket, we have hired an assistant coach. We filled out the bench. So Nathan McIver is coming in, who you got to spend some time with, but his background, last year he was an assistant coach in Belleville. Prior to that, he worked in the ECHL with Newfoundland, and before that in the OHL with Oshawa. Career kind of tough guy. We were just looking at his numbers before he came on. 500 AHL games, 1,300 penalty minutes, only 38 points. So a guy who's going to bring grit and toughness to the back end, which is, I would say, something that we needed a little bit. You look for some of those guys who are all very, very skilled, but you want them to play with a little bit of an edge, especially when they're trying to protect someone like Jesper Wallstedt potentially, or any goalie, honestly. Any goalie you want that, but especially someone like Jesper. So he comes in and is going to help lead the defensive group, taking the place of Cody Franzen. But you got to spend some time with him. So what were your initial thoughts?
Yeah, extremely kind. First and foremost, Prince Edward Island guy, the Maritimes in Canada, and they don't make them bad out there, from what I've been told. Really kind person. Seems like he fit in really quickly with that group, and part of that's a credit to Brett McLean and the culture that he set up within the staff. But fit right in. Also learned it's McKeever, not McIver. I thought it was McIver as well until I met him, and also as someone whose last name gets butchered all the time, want to make sure that we get his name right, Nate McKeever. But he fit in very well. He seems very knowledgeable. He jumped right in at development camp and didn't seem like he was shy or felt like he needed to kind of tiptoe his way into the staff, which I like that. It means he's confident in what he's doing and seems like he's going to be a great addition. And like you said, has the right type of pedigree and can help coach some of these players in maybe some areas of the game that they're not that comfortable in yet, that clearly he was very comfortable in. And the penalty minutes stand out for sure when you look at the elite prospects page of Nate McKeever.
Yeah. Guy too. Obviously, Brett's not bringing guys in who he doesn't feel like are going to be a good fit. And Brett's a good judge of character. So I'm excited to get him in here. I'm excited to meet him and get to know him a little bit and see how he helps mold this young team of ours. Last couple bits, forgot to hit this off the top, but this third period segment is presented by Wildware. Now can you hear the dog going?
Oh, there we go. Yes.
Yeah.
Is Rooney wearing any Wildwear?
No, but she's in the pool currently, or was in the pool. I don't know if you could see that. Bad
She's going to come
podcast.
over and shake, and we're going to get some pool water on the camera.
No, but third period segment presented by Wildware. Wildware.com is the official online store of your Iowa Wild, with the largest selection of Iowa Wild fan gear, one-of-a-kind apparel, and exclusive specialty merchandise. There's always something new at wildware.com. Don't miss out. Head to the website now. Start shopping. I know they just wrapped up a big summer clearance sale last week, and from all accounts, did very, very, very well. So, shout out to the merch team. We got a lot of. I've seen some pictures of some of the new stuff we've got coming in for the upcoming season. Start saving your money now. That's all I can suggest. Start saving your money now, because it's going to be great. You're going to want all of it. And then quickly before we call it quits on this show, upcoming events. So when you're listening to this, tonight is our free summer block party presented by Home Solutions of Iowa. Tonight it's from, I believe 5:30 to 7:30 right down at the Science Center. So head down there. There's going to be food trucks. There's going to be games. Heather and Sean are going to be doing a live show of the drive starting at 3:00, and they'll run, and then they'll play some live music after. We'll have street hockey. Crash will be there. All kinds of fun and excitement. So make sure if you're around, stop by. It's going to be a good time. We got, I think, nearly double the amount of RSVPs than we had last year. So it's going to be a pretty big event that we're excited about. And then coming up, a favorite of mine, a favorite of yours, but the Wild on the Green Golf Tournament is coming up in October. Registration is open now. And you've got early bird registration, I should say, is open now. You've got till August 2nd to get in on that early bird deadline, and then prices go up. So if you want to play in this tournament, now's the time to get in, or else you're going to be paying more money once that early bird registration
Yeah, don't
ends.
wait.
So get in on that. Golf with the Iowa Wild players. Golf with Ben potentially. He's someone who's been there a bit, but you do like to use that day as
I don't
catch
ever
up
get
day.
to golf in it. Yeah, well, that always comes. I think it's the second Monday of training camp.
It's the week of the home opener usually.
Yeah, and that whole week prior, between players turning in travel receipts and just getting players caught up on paperwork if they're new players, and there's a lot of onboarding that has to happen with the new players. That Monday is such a good day for me because the players they're not around, and they're also not at home where they could be sending, like they're occupied. So I've taken advantage, because I would love to play in that tournament, but that day has become I go out, I intro, I show up, I get everybody fired up for the event, and then I go back to the office and just take about whatever it is, the 5 hours where the players are out there, and the amount of work I get done in those 5 hours, it's immense. The amount of work I get done in those 5 hours, and then I sometimes will come back and do the silent auction too. So who knows? Maybe I'll have all my ducks in a row this year, and I'll be able to come and play. But I'm not holding my breath.
We'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's a fun one. So I think it's just iowawild.com/golf is the website. If you want to go get signed up, you can sign up as an individual, you can sign up as a foursome. But a really fun day. Sponsors all over the golf course. Again, golfing with the Iowa Wild players, silent auction. You're gonna get lunch. So definitely go in and sign up for that if you haven't yet. And then the very last piece, no bus line today. We had a lot to get to, so we're going to skip that. But since the last time we talked, we did have the league meetings in Chicago, and we did once again come home with some awards. On the ticket side, we hit some of the team achievement awards. I believe it's like 600 FSEs and a 90% renewal rate for season tickets. So that was great to have. And then our marketing department again brought home an award for marketing campaign of the year. So that it starts in Des Moines campaign that we started last year and are going to carry through this year, really focusing on, the journey for our players and the road to the NHL. It all starts here in Des Moines. And that's something that we built into TV ads and all of our creative, and something that Brett and his staff really bought into, so much so that they put it up on a wall in the locker room. So it's really exciting to see truly the whole organization bought in on that from top to bottom. But again, something that we doesn't come to fruition if the whole marketing team's not in lockstep there. So shout out to everybody who was involved in bringing that to life, and hopefully now we can find a way to outdo ourselves once again and put something together this season that can bring home more hardware next summer. So that's what we're planning for right now. So we'll see what comes up.
The marketing team trophy cabinet's running out of room. You guys are gonna have to build another trophy cabinet up there.
Yeah, it's tough. We've got some. We have some banners. We made banners. Travis made banners last year, and we had a little banner raising ceremony. So we might have to add a new one to the mix this time around. We'll see. I don't know. We'll see where things take us. I can't make any promises.
When next time we see each other on this podcast, you will be back. We'll be back down in the locker room. Well, I shouldn't say live, in person, with our next show. So that'll be good. Yeah, nothing else on my end. Great to get back at it with you, Joey. But based off that eyebrow raise, you have one more thing to touch on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I know it's something that we've obviously been waiting for, something that'll be coming up here soon. We talked about it really early in the show, but the state fair is coming up.
Well, the fair,
right around
yes.
the corner, basically. And Wednesday, the 13th, I believe it is the day of the cow chip throwing contest. So,
man,
we're gonna be back out there. Woo. I'm gonna be there trying to defend my title and break a world record, 188 feet, by the way. I looked it up. So yeah. We're going to see if we can top ourselves. Well, I'm going to see if I can top myself. You just make sure you don't disqualify yourself. Yeah, don't get disqualified.
My ceiling's really low.
Yeah.
And I can throw it 10 feet, and I did better than I did last year. So yeah. I got nowhere to go but up.
Yeah, so that's coming up. So we'll have some fun with that. Well, obviously, we haven't figured out exactly what day, but we'll record live from our booth again at some point. So yeah, that'll be exciting. But if you want to come to the cow chip throwing contest and try and dethrone me, feel free.
And all
challengers are welcome.
If there's any other events, fairgoers that you guys know of that you think would be interesting to have Joey or myself or both of us take part in, we're all ears. So if you have anything you like that you want to see us try out, feel free to tweet at the Iowa Wild, Facebook at the Iowa Wild. Can you TikTok at people?
A social guy. What else you got? You sound like Bill Belichick, snap face and
snap facing. Can you MySpace at me? You can MySpace at me if you want me to do something at the fair. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Well, Joey, good to have you back. Good to be back. Looking forward to having you back here in Des Moines soon. Thanks for another good show. And a big thanks to Mikey Milne as well. Any final thoughts?
Thanks to Jeremy Core, Executive Podcast Solutions.
Are you going to take it again like you did last show?
Am I gonna take what again? Oh yeah. Thanks to my dog for barking in the background, and then like, subscribe, review, share, everything. let people know. Riding the bus, it's awesome. That's it. That's all I got.
Two hogs for the win.